I love to go foraging. Now, I mean, you see the long hair today, you might think, of course, you're a nature guy. Let's be real. The long hair is because my barber had to cancel on me today, but tomorrow will be clipped. But I wanted to get this video to you today. Now, when I forage, I go out in the woods and I find mushrooms, fruits, and nuts that are all tasty and healthy. Now, I don't always know what I'm going to find, but if I look in the right places, I'm more likely to find them than if I'm poking around the parking lot where everyone else is. See, finding legislators to be your patron or ally is pretty similar. If you go where everyone else is, you'll have a hard time finding someone to champion your cause. But if you know where to look to find one, you'll find a legislator to be your champion, to be your patron pretty quickly. On today's episode of Better Advocacy in 10 Minutes or Less, we're going to uncover how you can find legislators to be your bill patron or ally. First off, why do you need legislative allies? Why do you need to convince an elected official to be your bill patron and champion or defender of your cause? Because without an elected official taking up your cause, you're going to have a much harder time advancing legislation and turning your passion into policy. And have you noticed that I'm using two different terms? The first is the patron or champion. This is the proactive legislator who has agreed to take your bill or policy proposal and introduce it. They'll champion your legislation because they've made it their own. This is the legislative relationship we normally think of, right? But to be successful, you need your legislative allies to be reactive, not just proactive. You need a defender. This means your legislative ally is willing to fight against bad bills that hurt your cause. It's best if this legislator sits on the committee that will usually hear bills that impact you. Why? Look, most legislative bodies have this custom of not allowing legislators to speak for or against bills that are not their own. So, if you want a strong defender for your cause, they need to already be in the room where it's being debated and ready to speak out against those bad bills. They won't do this on their own, usually. They'll expect your support, both with talking points and presence. Make sure you've given them powerful talking points and you're ready to support them during the public comment period. But wait. We're getting ahead of ourselves. You need to know how to find that legislative ally. So your first inclination may be to recruit the most powerful legislator you can, the speaker, the majority leader, or another prominent politician in your state. If you have an existing connection with one of these, then go for it. But just like the person foraging in the spot everyone knows about, you're not likely to be very successful. Instead, look for legislators with proximity. Proximity to your cause or proximity to your life. Proximity to your cause means legislators that are already working in your area. Maybe they've introduced legislation similar to yours in the past. Maybe they serve on a board or commission that oversees your policy space. Maybe you know they or a loved one are directly impacted by the issue you're trying to address. These legislators would be naturally inclined to support you, and you'll have an easier time convincing them to join you. Plus, they'll probably bring some extra knowledge that can be beneficial to your fight. Now, the other good place to find legislative champions is those in close proximity to where you live. These are the legislators that represent you or the people directly impacted by your policy. Even if your policy proposal is outside of their normal area of emphasis, they'll likely take up your cause if it's not opposed to their beliefs, since you're a constituent and they want happy, engaged constituents. Obviously, if you want to introduce gun control legislation and your legislator is a proud NRA member, you likely won't get support. But if your policy area is not in a space that they actively oppose, more than likely you'll get their support, especially if you show how you will be able to support them with research, talking points, and people to testify in hearings. Okay, now that you've identified the legislator or legislators, it's always good to have one in each chamber of the legislature, you need to build a relationship with them. Now, I've got a whole episode on this called Building Relationships, or over here, Building Relationships. I never remember which side that link shows up on. And I'll link that to the description, and of course, on one of these spots right above me. But we'll take a slightly different approach today. You can build a relationship on shared values through policy and impact. Start by sharing why this issue is important to you. What difference will it make in your life or the lives of the folks in your impacted community? How will this change positively impact your life or those you're representing? Then show how it will positively impact their constituents, the people that vote them into office. Is it a zoning change that will allow more entrepreneurs to create more job opportunities in their city? Is it a policy change that will increase the likelihood of success for school students? When they see that your policy will put them in a favorable light by doing something good for their voters, they'll listen to you and their trust in you will grow. Now, this doesn't end once you get a legislator to take up your cause. You have to sustain the relationship too. This will look different in each situation depending on the legislator, what your policy requires, and the outside forces of campaigns, politics, and other policies. But at a bare minimum, you want to make sure your legislative allies are updated on what's happening in your policy space and that they know you appreciate them. If you have a newsletter, add the legislator and the appropriate staffers to your list. If new research comes out, share it with them. Help them become experts in your policy space. And let's talk about appreciation for a moment. Appreciation doesn't just mean a thank you note, though that's a great place to start. Share news clippings about the positive impact their legislative leadership has caused. Invite them to be a part of some of your public events. Basically, show them that you appreciate how they've championed your cause, not just during the legislative session, but throughout the year. Now, when you take these steps to identify, build, and sustain relationships with legislative allies, you are multiplying your power to turn your passion into policy. And if you're ready to learn more, check out some of the other videos in my Better Advocacy in 10 Minutes or Less series.